Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the gym. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next, who should Ravens Nation be rooting for this weekend? Let's talk. Well, as we all know, the Baltimore Ravens do not have a game this week, so our 8-5 body of work stands, right? We already have 13 weeks of competition in the books, and so what that means is, being neutral, we don't gain ground or necessarily lose ground. So it's kind of like a win, right? But there are some games this weekend that will have implication on our playoff berth and seeding, and also the potential to win the AFC North for the Baltimore Ravens. So let's get into a few of these games, right? Let's start with Jets versus Dolphins. This game is going to be in Miami. Now you may be thinking, Belanger, neither one of these teams are in the playoff race right now. You're right. But the Dolphins do have an opportunity to win out and sneak into the back end of the playoffs. That division that they're in is already over for them. But if the Dolphins get hot at the right time, they could absolutely cause some trouble for teams on the back end of the playoff seeding. And as of right now, the Baltimore Ravens are at 6th seed, followed by the Denver Broncos at the 7th seed. And so why is this important? Well, if the Dolphins win out and we somehow do something silly like stumble down the stretch, we could be on the outside looking in. The Baltimore Ravens really just need to win 2 games. I think that secures them a playoff spot. Now, we don't want to think like that as a Ravens fan. We want us to finish the season strong and go strong into the playoffs. But anything can happen, as we've already seen in this 2024 season. So as a fan, we want the Jets to beat the Dolphins and put more distance between us, neutral, and the Dolphins, who could come on strong late. All right. The next game I think that has some importance to us is going to be the Chiefs versus Chargers. Now, I think this game is in Kansas City, so advantage Kansas City. The Chargers have been a much improved team this year under Jim Harbaugh, and they've been more disciplined, they've been more consistent, and they're a team who has a lot of you could say positive attributes, right? They're a team that wants to run the ball. They have a good quarterback who can also run with the ball. He can put the ball anywhere on the field. He has a strong arm. He's an above average decision maker, not an elite decision maker. They have good young wide receivers. They have a solid offensive line, and they have a defense who always comes to play. But they're in Kansas City, and we have seen just this season that games that Kansas City are on the verge of losing, even up until the last 25 seconds on the field, we've seen other teams choke those games away. So the Chiefs somehow just find a way to win. But we probably want to root for the Chiefs. As crazy as that sounds as a Ravens fan, that's probably who we want to root for. And the reason why is, if the Chiefs beat the Chargers, we actually pull ahead of the Chargers. Even though we're neutral this week, we actually pull ahead of the Chargers with an 8-5 and 8-5 record, because we have the tiebreaker. We actually move into that 5th spot, right? So we kind of want to root for the Chiefs, all right? Another game that could be of some importance is the Buffalo Bills versus the Rams. Now, that doesn't directly impact us necessarily, but if the Rams do beat the Bills, it kind of puts the Bills squarely in that number 2 spot. Don't believe they would catch the Chiefs at that point. And I believe that if the Baltimore Ravens were to get the number 3 seed, as I stated in my previous video, if we get the number 3 seed, I think personally we have a better chance to go and gain confidence against Buffalo, who is not elite defensively at any level. They're just consistent. I think we have a better chance of going into Buffalo, even with the weather, even with the crowd, and getting a win and securing some confidence equity before we go into that AFC Championship game. Of course, that's the hypothetical thought of winning out and getting into that 3rd seed. So, rooting for the Rams, and if they win, that does help us, in playoff seeding in some aspect. Hey, if Buffalo has some type of late season stumble and they get to that 5th loss, maybe, just maybe, we could get into the 2nd seed if we take care of our business. But again, that's on our plate, not theirs, to take care of our business. So, not really a great playoff implication, but if the Rams could win, that could help us out later on in the season. All right. And then the biggest game of this weekend that the Baltimore Ravens should keep their eye on and should be rooting for is the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cleveland Browns definitely helped us out several weeks ago, where they beat Pittsburgh in Cleveland. And I think that it is a possibility that Cleveland could beat Pittsburgh again. We just saw Pittsburgh's defense have a level of vulnerability against a high-flying Cincinnati Bengals offense. Although they did pull out a win, they did give up, I think it was like, 38 points. I know it was 35 plus. It could have been like 38 points, which means the Cincinnati Bengals had them on their heels. Certainly, the Cleveland Browns have a better defense than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they really haven't dropped off in play as it pertains to their effort. Being Cleveland's defense, they're still trying to get after the quarterback. They're still trying to, stop you in the pass game. They're still trying to play good ball. I think they've had a couple of big injuries over this past week, so it's not favorable that Cleveland goes into Pittsburgh and win. But that's still who we should be rooting for. If Cleveland somehow pulls off a victory, that would then bring the Pittsburgh Steelers to 2 losses in the division and 1 game closer to us as it pertains to the overall record. So we should be rooting for the Cleveland Browns. Summation. If some of these games happen, right, specifically Chiefs beat the Chargers, the Baltimore Ravens will sit 1 game better as it pertains to seeding coming into week 15, right? Which means even though we didn't play, we did gain some ground. And so that bodes well for us going down the stretch. Nevertheless, the Baltimore Ravens have to take care of their own business. And that process will begin Monday when we get back on the practice field and begin to implement the things we need to implement to take care of our own business. So listen, just a quick video, man. I want to touch base with you guys. I'm your guy, Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.